want to emphasize on the past, present, and future students who knew or hope. These are no pluses on, all the instructors say. Well, what's that?
Can you hear me again?
Yes, I'm sorry, Jack.
Oh, that's okay. I figured I self-destructed again.
No, it's
Technology is part of the reason I decided to retire from teaching. It took a lot of the fun out of it for me. But anyways, thank you for working things out on your end. But as I started out saying, thanks again to Susan and Jan for having me here, as well as you and all the Yale colleagues. It's a great experience as somebody who teaches overseas and has done a fair amount of work overseas. I know what a valuable experience this is for the international lawyers who are there to spend time, particularly at Yale. A graduate of that institution, I have a particular fondness for the law school, and you probably are already studying and doing some work over there in the library. It's a rare opportunity, as you know, as international students, to have 5 weeks away from your normal routine and just be in the United States, which is an interesting place to be. And at Yale, which is, as many of you probably know, and I'll say this as a Yale graduate, it's usually it's considered the top law school in the country. So to the extent that your people hear about Columbia and Harvard and all these other places that have their challenges right now, it's Yale's a great place to learn, and a lot of that learning is going to be occurring with your fellow colleagues. When I was at Yale, I remember Dean Calabrese saying, you're going to learn more from from your classmates rather than from the faculty. And as it turned out, that was the case. And I'd like to think, in my senses, that's also the same situation for you all here in the summer program. So spend time getting to know each other and reach out and see as much of this of the states as you can. I'm sure you're going to be taking some trips, but one place you might go, and forgive me for being a little bit pedantic or a teacher here, you can walk right down a couple blocks from the law school to the courthouse, and you got to go through the checkpoint, obviously. Security is what we call it in the courthouse, and then pick a case that you want to hear, sit in on. And there's certainly criminal law cases. There's always those going on, and a civil case and as well. But there's a number of courthouses, and perhaps Professor Reed can share that the differences between the two courthouses. The criminal courthouse is a fairly independent, freestanding facility courthouse. It does have some civil cases, though. And then there's a smaller, but very busy case dealing with minor infractions as well as minor sums of money. And so I encourage you to do that, and don't be shy about it. You can walk in there and sit there. And if you tell anybody that you're in the Yale International Law class and you're there for the summer, you can even mention my name, Saul. They should get it, particularly if you're going there, which might be hard for you to do at 8 or 9 in the morning since you've got class. But when you go back after lunch or 1 or 2, Yale has spent some time there. So I think it's really important for you to sort of have that experience in the courthouse, and any other trips that Yale has planned for you. I just encourage you to do that. That and the time that you get to spend with your fellow students and getting to know one another. I understand some of my students are there today. I'm sorry I'm not there. I would love to see you all in person, but hear from you. I did see some of my Italian students when I was in Rome and other parts of Italy. So it's always a pleasure to hear that and to reach out to you about that. One thing I might ask you to think about, though, in the couple minutes I have here, and um, is to think about professional responsibility, something we call legal ethics here. because to the extent that you decide you're going to spend time here, either continuing your education in the States, as we say, or someplace else and you're practicing law, it's really important, incumbent for you to realize the rules and standards that American lawyers who you may be working with, you may be opposed by them, but we are bound by those principles and can suffer some significant consequences if we break those rules. So when you go into a courthouse, you'll get a sense for how and I encourage you again to do that in New Haven. It's 2 or 3 blocks down the road. You'll see the lawyers in action doing things. And as some of you may know already, having practiced in your own home countries, it's not everything that happens in the courtroom is going to be exciting, but I think it's important for you to see how the judge and his staff sort of maneuver that whole enterprise. And looming in the background of that entire endeavor, the trial of the courthouse, is the rule of ethics. Yes, judges have their own code of ethics, but they are lawyers for the most part in this country, 99.9%. I lived in a state called Vermont where you could be a non-lawyer and a judge for a while, but those people had very limited powers. So basically, we're talking about lawyer ethics and judicial ethics. And lawyer ethics is something that large law firms, everybody's concerned about it. So, spend some time looking at the code of ethics, appreciate some of the limitations. U.S. lawyers have to be very careful about the representations they make, not only in a courthouse, but to other lawyers. You can't make, it sounds like it's a priori, but a given. But you can't make false statements or anything that's a misrepresentation. And the consequences for that are severe. And as I said, I taught professional responsibility. I have a textbook out on that. Putting all that aside, I did the expert testimony in that area. Lawyers and judges are often getting in trouble for violating the code of ethics. So I assume you're going to spend some time on that here, because whether you're doing contracts or commercial law, our code of ethics is going to be the overlay for all the work that you're doing or all the work of the American lawyers that you may be working with or have hired to represent you and your client. So I do encourage you to take a look at the code of ethics or to give that some thought. And I won't spend any more of your valuable time today waxing on about that or other courses, but to the extent you can, reach out to your professors there and see what's going on in terms of maybe guest speakers. The law school at Yale sometimes has speakers coming in during the summer. It's not often, but they do. And you can just walk over there and sit down and listen to the lecture. I'm sure you've already cruised the Yale Law School, but it's worth doing if you haven't done it already. There are international lawyers besides American lawyers studying there, and it's just a wonderful time to spend in a nice facility, not far from where you'll be eating lunch, right down the road from your dorm. So do that. And for fear of waxing on, as my entire family always accuses me of doing, I will just bid you adieu, say au revoir. But most importantly, I'm going to sit here and do whatever else I can do, without creating problems for the Yale faculty and staff there. But welcome to Yale. It changed my life. It's a very special place. And as I say, when you get out of Yale Law School, you have a lot of opportunities and you're doing a lot of different things. And you'll have that chance with that Yale pedigree or that Yale degree on your resume. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, both of you. Do you want me to just stay on here?
If you have time.
If you can.
Sure.
Presentations.
My family accuses me of always being too loquacious, talking too much. Just let me know if you want me to say anything as you continue on here.
Sure.
All
Okay.
right. And thank you for inviting me. Most importantly, thank you to our international colleagues who've traveled back to Yale. It's a special place. And I apologize for not being there in person.
Thank you.
I haven't introduced Alan Gibbons, I kind of assume all of you already know him, but he's currently the very recent director of the English Language Institute. So he has been a professor in the summer session at Yale for many years, like Stephanie and her friend. Me. I haven't been here quite as long as all three of you were here when you were but it's really good to see everybody again and to see returning students and people I haven't met and the current students. Thank you all. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Antonio, who found his name correctly, and our timekeeper, Julian Christet. Nicholas is a current law seminar student from Greece, and he will join the LLM program at Harvard following summer session. Julian was a law seminar student in 2016, is that correct?
17.
Oh, 17.
Anything they say.
2018, and he has recently completed his doctorate in law in Germany. He came all the way from Germany to be with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. Welcome everybody and good afternoon. We're very happy you are all here, alumni, current students, faculty, and friends to join us at this special event. I would just like to give you an overview of what's next. So there are going to be some presentations by current students or alumni. Each presentation will last for 20 minutes, and then we have allowed for 10 minutes questions and comments. Each presenter will be introduced by a current student. So now I'd like to invite Jack Sahl from Switzerland, a current student, to introduce the first speaker.
Well, thank you very much, Nicholas, for your introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to me. For our first speaker, it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce Mr. Fabian Martens from Switzerland. Fabian Martens will talk about European economy, competition law. He's a specialist on competition law. He's a leading attorney specializing in antitrust, competition, as well as public procurement law. He's a partner at Pestalozzi, attorneys at law, prominent Swiss law firm based in Zurich. He's practiced law since 2008 after being admitted to the Zurich bar, Swiss bar. He holds a JD from the University of Zurich, university in which I did a semester as well. Fabian Martens also holds two different LLMs, one from the University of Yale, University, and one from National University of Singapore. And he also holds a postgraduate diploma in economics competition law at the King's College University in London, UK. He also attended the law seminar in 2002, so almost 23 years ago. Thank you, Fabian, for being here, for accepting to come back. Come back every year, right? Everybody, please welcome Mr. Fabian Martens.
Thank you very much. Almost every year, at least since a couple of years, I come back here. That is true. The summer in Yale has been a very unique experience for me, obviously. I think at an early stage, the first time away from home and being in such a different environment, which is a key part of your development, like professionally, but also personally. And to me, it became a very important place to come back, like professionally. Yale is always like on the radar. Personally, I have friends, very close friends from my time at Yale, which, as you heard, is like quite a while ago. So I invite you all to cherish this time and to value it, to stay in contact with each other, which is one of the key features of this program. So I had a very rough understanding of what we talk about today. I'm not an environmental lawyer at all. As you heard, I do mainly competition law, Switzerland. But I thought it helps, since an event like this is a very good occasion to bring us all together and to bring different perspectives together on a very important issue that is relevant for all of us. I give you a little bit of the Swiss perspective of what we think of climate change, of environmental challenges, and how we tackle them. As you know, Switzerland has like special demographics, so it's a very small economy, like roughly 8 million inhabitants. At the same time, Switzerland is quite a wealthy country, so the per capita income is higher than most of the EU and a large part of the world. And that puts Switzerland in like a special position with regards to like environmental issues. And I think one aspect that is very relevant is size of Switzerland. Because if you have a small country, you actually see environmental issues arise very quickly. It's more difficult to hide things in your country. And I always explain a little bit like why Switzerland has been quite early on, at least aware of environmental issues, with the fact that in Switzerland, we cherish our lakes and mountains. They are very visible. Almost everybody has like mountain homes there, goes there, and you see change extremely fast. And I think this brought a lot of awareness for Swiss people that you have to take care of this. There is also, of course, tourism. Many people have like the picture perfect image of Switzerland with the mountains and the glaciers and everything. But that alone cannot explain the importance this subject has for us, because tourism is not that key for Swiss economy. I would say banks and lawyers are probably doing more harm to the budget than. So where is Switzerland now in like terms of environmental protection? Occasionally we are heroes in certain tiny aspects. For example, the recycling heroes of Europe. Apparently, Switzerland collects as much aluminum as nowhere else in the EU. That's probably because we drink so much coffee and we all drink it from these aluminum capsules. But apparently, we were the leader in the EU for several years in a row. Also, PET, like PET, the plastic bottles collection, there Switzerland was very early on the country with the highest recycling rate of this. If you come to Switzerland, especially the Americans, usually what they first realize is that the AC is broken everywhere, because the AC is not broken but prohibited. So most buildings are not allowed to have like built-in air conditioning. There's a few exceptions for hospitals or people's homes, and a few shops, I must say, but offices are not allowed to be air conditioned. Private homes cannot have like a fully installed system. So you have like some elements that makes this country more environmentally friendly. For example, like we just recently moved into a new office building with our law firm. It's a building from the 1950s and it's cooled exclusively with lake water. So there's just a sophisticated system of pumping lake water through our ceilings. which lowers the temperature to like a bearable level in summer. It's not ice cold, but it's at least it's enough to work there long hours. But this is one example how you can be innovative, even though you are not allowed to, just build in an AC, which of course all our employees would have like most, including myself. Public transport is quite well developed in Switzerland, so we have a very high ratio of travel by train. When I have clients coming from overseas, they usually want to take the cab somewhere. And then I say, well, it costs like 400 bucks to go to Bern, so it doesn't make sense. It's like, we don't mind. But actually, you're just in not so well maintained roads because they don't have the capacity for so many cars, but the train will take you there in like less than an hour. So all the Swiss just constantly take trains because car doesn't make much sense. So I think these are all aspects that help in being more or less sustainable, at least in some aspects. Is everything perfect? Not at all. Switzerland faces a lot of environmental issues as well. Like the first one, the very obvious one that is a big concern is like the change of average temperature, which affects our glaciers a lot. And this is extremely visible. So when you go hiking in summer in the mountains, you sometimes see, okay, this is where the glacier came in the 1960s, and then you hike several kilometers, and this is like, this was the 70s, and you hike back and back. So it's extremely obvious how just small changes in the climate actually affect Switzerland. And there are studies that say Switzerland is affected over proportionally because a little bit of glacier melting will heat up the temperature even more, because instead of ice, you have like dark rock there, which will accelerate the heating up. So we are very aware of this. The second thing is the water quality is quite exceptional so far. So most lakes in Switzerland, you can literally like take a glass of water and just then drink it from the lake. At least that's what people from Swiss tourism do when they have visitors. I don't know how they feel afterwards, but normally it's quite okay. But you often hear that the soil in Switzerland, it's a small country, so that we have a lot of agriculture that we try to maintain, also to be independent. And there is too much fertilizer used in that agriculture that goes into the groundwater, and that quality is slowly deteriorating. It's still okay, but things must do better. So this is one of the priorities of our government. I actually learned when preparing for today, I didn't know this, to maintain the soil quality until 2050, which is one of the big issues, because a lot of the agriculture and also our quality depends on the quality of soil. One of the big challenges, I think, for Swiss people is that we have some options. We are also quite an innovative country that has, I will talk one innovation like in a bit. But as soon as it gets hard and we have to reduce our lifestyle, then it gets a little bit more difficult, I would say, for Swiss people. So we had a landslide vote a couple of years ago towards green parties. Which showed, the awareness of Swiss people. So we have that direct democracy, so everybody can constantly vote on many issues. So you have a good reflection of people's key priorities, and green issues are the key. But whenever that party was then in place and wanted to implement any measures that actually worked, then Swiss people are a little bit less willing to give away their status or their standard. And I think there will be a lot of learning to do, including myself, especially when it comes to traveling around the globe for various reasons. So this is something reduce. So talking just very quickly about the environmental policy in Switzerland, there was a major shift about 20 years ago. As I said, changes are very visible in Switzerland. So the environmental protection was for a long time focused on improving our local conditions, like waste management, everything that you can do, you can see, and that has a direct effect on Switzerland. And about 20 years ago, the policy also took into consideration that actually not only like small Switzerland is relevant, but global issues are. So, for example, CO2 reduction is not primarily a Swiss problem; it's a global problem. And since this change of the policy, Switzerland has more projects in place to reduce, for example, like greenhouse gas emissions globally. So the key pillar of that new policy is that Switzerland shall invest in innovation to make more sustainable and more innovative products. I have one example, and there has been a recent development, so maybe it's not the best example anymore, but we have, for example, the company Kleinworks. I don't know if you heard of it in Switzerland. It has been like a huge startup that went through the roof. That got a lot of investors' attention. And we also know, like, we even lost an employee who said, like, I don't want to work in a law firm. I want to do some good, and he's now working there, an excellent employee. This company can take CO2 out of the air and push it into rocks where it solidifies and stays pretty much forever in that rock. It's a very innovative technology that came from our technical high school, so it was a spin-off, and they developed a model that you can actually do this on a large scale. What you need to do this process is like you need some energy to push this into the rock, and this works ideally if you have like a cold climate. So that's as much as I know. They are building up still capacities in Iceland, I hear, because you have like much really colder climate than in Switzerland, and they're constantly like pumping CO2 into the rock. So this was, one of our like the stars of innovation of Switzerland. In recent developments, we have seen that it didn't quite live up to its promise because the technology is more difficult to implement on a very large scale. It works good on a small scale, but it needs high energy input to actually reduce that CO2. And so now there's been like this big question mark from investors, like was it worth it? How much do you actually reduce? So we see it's not always like done with the first step, but there will be questions to be answered there. But we all hope, of course, that this technology is worthwhile and can actually be further developed. So much about like the general policy. Then there are several implementations of this, and this brings me a little bit closer to like my daily work. So as you heard, I'm mainly a competition lawyer and public procurement lawyer. And in these two fields of law, I see like implications of sustainability policy. So the first one I want to mention is public procurement law. We had a change of law, like a major overhaul of the Public Procurement Act in Switzerland, with like many minor legal adjustments and one major legal adjustment, and that was that public procurement from the federal government, which are huge projects, will from now on always have to take into consideration the sustainability of the project. So that means the assessment whether a project is efficient or not and is worthwhile or not will always include sustainability aspects. And this is a major shift. So you can imagine how much Swiss government like procures like all the streets, all the buildings, all the public buildings. And so sustainability has become like a very key aspect of this. For example, in competition law, I wrote like my paper at King's College. I wrote about price discrimination in the airline business, where I said that, you know, like all these different prices we have and the connecting flights and all this is a very efficient system that improves efficiency, but it actually increases the number of flights, because if you fly like via a direction, you have more flights, but your flight gets cheaper. So it makes sense from an economic standpoint, but not from a sustainability standpoint. And there we have a very interesting discussion, like how far is competition law supposed to support sustainable development. We have one article in our Cartel Act that says you have a justification for projects that are economically efficient or that are, and then it comes, are deemed necessary in order to exploit resources more rationally. And this is a very key element for sustainability in competition law. So we had some cases like competitors agreeing on certain prices, like to introduce 1 cent per gallon of fuel to go into like climate protection projects. And there our competition authority said many years ago already, this affects competition negatively if you agree on a price element, but in this case, it's public interest and sustainability that justifies it. This was an early decision. We're still fighting to get the commission to implement this in their daily practice, because generally they are reluctant to be very generous with climate protection projects. But we had several cases where we argued exactly this. So this is my short overview. There's many other aspects, but I wanted to bring you this perspective of this small European country and how we tackle climate change. I think the more you do, the more you realize how much needs to be done. We are not at all there yet, and I feel we are only just beginning to understand also the complexity of the subject. But nevertheless, I think as soon as you make changes in your behavior visible, this is already a very big step to what economists say, to internalize these costs for environment into the costs that you pay daily, because air might be for free, water might be for free, but it's actually not. So it has a value for all of us, for life, but also for economy, and this needs to be internalized. So this is the view from a Swiss competition lawyer. Time for some.
We had some institutions, but I forgot about someone to introduce the discussion. So now we have 10 minutes, but not quickly to ask any questions or to comment on anything that he said.
I would have a question.
Yes.
Is it constitutional to forbid air conditioners? If you don't have a discussion about it, like I want air conditioners. You can just forbid them. Ban that.
Yes, so you can actually, so it's in the Environmental Protection Act. I'm not aware whether it's in the act itself or in an ordinance, but the way it works. So the Green Party can bring an initiative. We want to put this into law. And then the parliament decides, and if you have 100,000 people signing, you can have a referendum and bring this to the people. to say like we don't want this, we want air conditioning. And then it goes to the people to a vote. And so in that case, it would be possible if the Swiss people wanted to change this law to actually have that change, but you need a majority of the votes.
So for now, just malls and big offices.
So offices, no. Malls, like some shops are allowed to have air conditioning. There is a circumvention of this, which I think is like probably takes away most of the advantages, because you can buy like a mobile device. You don't need a permit for like an installation or something, so you can just buy a mobile device that is probably less efficient and put it somewhere. So that's something people do. But I would say on average, like this, very few. It's like 80-90% is just not air conditioned. We have a few quite hot days. But you have a lot of like development. So these cooling systems with like water are like quite the state of art. So if you have like the very new offices have it. I'm excited that our office from 1950 had that system and it still works. So in a way, it fosters innovation, and you have to be ready to compromise a little bit. It's not going to be ice cold, but it's an average. But this is how it works in Switzerland. So it's very democratic in a way, and there's enough awareness of people that we actually agree that this is the case. I don't know what happens if temperatures continue to raise, whether people want more air conditioning, but at the time this is the regulation. This has been since I'm born, more or less. So this has always been the same. There's many things like this that may be surprising. Like for example, in Zurich we have the number of parking lots in Zurich is fixed since the 70s. So whenever they're building like new parking lots, they have to remove others to make it unattractive to take your car, right? Because there's not enough parking space in the city. So it doesn't really make sense. So I don't have a car, I live in the city, so it doesn't make so much sense to use a car. So this also pushes people to public transport. And this is also like a democratic decision, so it could be overturned, but where are you from?
Brazil.
Brazil, yes. I mean, all the Americans that come to Switzerland, they and go to a hotel that is not air conditioned. You know, think, what, this is a horrible place that, you know, it doesn't work and I'm paying so much and it doesn't even have air conditioning. But this is how it works. Or
Is
the,
that really, you know,
Yeah.
Environmental protection very depending on the country. Is it regulated by the country or it's a federal government?
it's a federal law. So the Environmental Protection Act is federal. But then local implementation. So for example, like the parking lots, this is like the city of Zurich that decided that. But I guess that is probably like just like it's under the general power of the environmental law, but that's local regulation that is still possible. But you can only get more strict, but not more lenient. Always from small countries, because this is always my theory that it is somehow you start earlier to see issues because you cannot just put the waste away. I don't know, like environmental issues are there in Switzerland's discussions since 20-30 years. I would say it's a very big subject, but you see problems arise very quickly. In the mountains, if there's like dirt and trash in the mountains, we don't accept this and we want to change this. So where Yeah.
It's fun because
Switzerland of Latin America, right?
some people say that I don't know because I don't know, like we have it's a constitutional right to have like a healthy environment, but I think that in practice sometimes like we don't have public transportation, so we have a lot of cars, institutional and stuff, so.
Yeah.
Then always like, be better.
Who else? You are very fun. Yeah.
Also very fun.
Yeah.
But I'd say